He's done exactly what we've asked him to do, and I think we have a lot of confidence in him. We have a standard for that position, regardless of who's in there. Practice, games, how we operate, what we believe in. We have a very, very high standard.
All right, Dan, you want to take that one?
I mean, so I don't know exactly what Kevin's trying to say, but I think what Kevin is trying to say is, the old coaching adage of if you don't practice, you don't play, right? The other guys on the depth chart have had injuries throughout camp, probably haven't been able to get enough practice reps to show what they get. And whereas Flacco he's taken every rep he was scheduled to take. I think that what Kevin is trying to say there is rooted in that idea of it's easy to sit here it's the Cleveland Browns. What do you mean high standards?
Correct.
The worst. But
I can hear your brain grinding.
Yeah. But I think that's the point of he's trying to explain the decision to go with Flacco by saying, look, we've seen it, we know what he can do, and the others still have to get there.
Yeah. We knew that was coming. He was going to be the starter from before the whole thing started. Lewis, is the most important piece of this now seeing who the backup is?
Yeah, it probably.
One of these two rookies is going to get to play.
It has to play itself out. You just can't let that hang, in limbo forever. Because look, that guy understands he's one snap away. So you have to give him some reps. You have to give him some attention in the meeting room, on the practice field, and he can't just run cards all week long. He can't just be a scout team guy. So either that's going to be Dillon Gabriel getting that, Kenny Pickett getting that, or Shedeur getting that. So yeah, that has to be decided upon. I'm sure he already has.
Should we read a lot into it, whatever it is?
We shouldn't read a lot into who the backup quarterback is unless it's not one of the rookies. Let's say Kenny Pickett comes off of the injury reserve, or Kenny Pickett returns to practice, and now Kenny Pickett is second, and one of these rookie guys is the third emergency quarterback. Then that tells me what I'm starting to feel anyway, is that they don't see either of these guys as the future, that they aren't evaluating Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders as the franchise quarterback to take this team forward. Kevin Stefanski is the two-time Coach of the Year. Mike Tomlin, who we all revere and think is one of the greatest of this era, has never won Coach of the Year. That's how good this man has been in Cleveland. And he's trying to win football games. And I don't know if he looks at either of those rookie quarterbacks, one taken in the third round, one taken in the fifth round, as someone that can allow them to win football games this year. And I don't believe he sees this as I'm rebuilding. He sees this as if I win with a guy who I know exactly what I'm going to get from him, and what we saw exceedingly high play from in 2023 can allow me to get to the playoffs, allow me to contend, I keep my job.
See, I don't know if they have made that determination that either Dillon or Shedeur is a franchise quarterback or not. I don't think you can. I don't think you can at this point. I mean, they both have basically played one game. Right? I mean, and I understand, look, we are in a microwave society, and we have guys who make one throw, throw one interception, and we say he's turnover prone. Get his ass out of there. I don't think they're at that point. It is kind of striking to me when you put it in kind of real simplistic terms that he is a two-time Coach of the Year and Mike Tomlin has not won it at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
that says more about the award.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That was just something that kind of like this.
But like Kevin Stefanski right now is thinking, so for us, right, for us, Shedeur Sanders was such a big story headed into the draft, right? We all saw him as a first-round guy, or at the worst, a second-round guy, which said to us, we believe that he could be the starter for a franchise for a decade, right, for years to come. And so we're expecting to see that from Kevin Stefanski, to see that mindset, but he's thinking team over building individuals. Kevin Stefanski's thinking about his job. How do I do what's best for these 53 men to win football games? Not necessarily how do I do what's best to see if we need to draft a quarterback next year.
And the other thing to remember is Kenny Pickett is also a developmental prospect in their eyes, right? He's still young. They traded for him before they knew who they were going to take in the draft, before they had Flacco. So that's a guy they want to see more from, and that they
see. This really speaks to the subjective nature of player evaluation, right? So you're talking about pre-draft, and I'm right there with you, that we thought that maybe Shedeur could be a guy who is a decades-long starter. I don't think that he has done anything to this point to really move me off of that evaluation. And he shouldn't have done anything to move Kevin Stefanski or anyone else off of that evaluation right now.
But they obviously didn't have that evaluation.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
And it seemed for whatever reason, nobody did.
We're going to start. You know what? Look, we're going to go down a rabbit hole again on this conversation.
I like rabbit holes.
But you know what? We'll see. We'll see.
I'm up against the clock. We can go down that rabbit hole this morning. I have plenty of time to do it, and I'm very interested in seeing what comes out the other side of it, because Shedeur Sanders plays one preseason game, looks terrific, and then we never see him again. Strikes
Sanders, this is our last question here. Shedeur Sanders will start for the Browns before October. Is that ridiculous?
Yeah, I think it is. Look, I think this is Joe Flacco's team for the foreseeable future, unless he absolutely falls flat on his face. And you can't forget the fact that Dillon Gabriel was drafted 2 rounds ahead of Shedeur and had a pretty good outing, minus some bad decisions and maybe a few off-target throws against Philadelphia, but by and large looked really good in that preseason game. I don't think we'll see him starting anytime soon, regardless of how I feel about his individual talent. I think he still has a long road to go before we see him as QB1.
And maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to not get thrown to the Wolves this early on there in Cleveland, considering what's in front of him and perhaps.
Okay, put your feet up. We have a lot to say. We'll start with why this happened, and then we'll dive into what it means. Dan Graziano, why did they make this decision?
You heard the word consistency come out of Shane Steichen's mouth. That, calling around on this last night, that was the word that kept coming up. That Daniel Jones was the more consistent performer throughout the offseason, throughout training camp and the preseason. I don't get the sense that he ran away with the job. I think they were happy with the improvements they saw from Anthony Richardson. They obviously want to see more, but they felt like, they're trying to win the game. They're trying to beat, who are they open with? Miami, right? Like they're trying to have a good season and win their division, and right now they feel like Daniel Jones is a little more trustworthy in terms of what he's going to be week to week, play to play than Anthony Richardson.
I can see Louis Riddick already shaking his head in what appears to be disappointment.
I am disappointed for the young man. Sure. No question about that. Because, look, Anthony is going to have to fight the perception that was created down in Houston when he went out of the football game for the rest of his career. Right or wrong, he's going to have
a reminder. He tapped out of the game in the middle, which I think. I've not heard one football player say they've ever heard of a quarterback
and you know
doing
what?
that.
Yeah, and that's not hyperbole. I've never seen that in my life.
I agree.
Okay, and he's going to have to fight that for the rest of his career. I think in this situation, look, just think back to when San Francisco drafted Trey Lance. Trey gets hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, and then Brock Purdy emerges the following year. Like, that is what kept all of us from talking about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's tenure in San Francisco. The fact that they were able to, in essence, level up at the quarterback position after investing a top 5 pick in a quarterback. Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, you're in the same situation now. If you do not level up, and this does not result in you turning this franchise around and you wind up making a serious run in the South and maybe trying to win the division, your jobs are on the line, especially with new ownership, a fresh set of eyes evaluating this whole thing. And it's just, I think this is all in. This is all or nothing for them right now. And for Anthony, look, it really does feel like his time is over. I mean, Shane's kind of body language, the way he talked about the fact that Daniel Jones, he wasn't going to have a quick release. What he's telling you is, I've moved on.
Yep.
I've moved on. This young man can say what he wants. I've moved on.
Yeah. I mean, this is like going on Top Chef and they tell you to pick like one ingredient to make a dish and you pick chicken breast instead of yellowtail, right? Because you know what you can do with chicken breast, right? We could grill it, we could fry it. It's going to be, the bottom of that is what we know. And then yellowtail is volatile. You know what I'm saying? It may not end up being exactly what you want, but if you get it right, the dish you can prepare is something serious. That's what happens with Anthony Richardson, right? You have these incredible highs. You see these throws. You see the ability to run the football. He runs over guys as he goes into the end zone, and then you have a 5-yard out and he throws it into the stands, right? Or there is a roll to cover 3 and he doesn't pick it up and he puts the football in the middle of the field in harm's way. And so what Shane Steichen is saying is if my job is on the line, I want to know what I'm going to get. I want to know how I can game plan week to week based on what my quarterback can do well, based on the fact that my quarterback is going to read this defense exactly the way I tell him to, based on the fact that I can be strategically smart about not putting him in harm's way so we don't see some of the things that's befell Daniel Jones in the pocket with controlling the ball and turning the football over. But what it says about Anthony Richardson is not only did we make a mistake in our evaluation, we've made a mistake in our development. Because when a player fails for the reason you expected him to fail if it was going to happen, that's on the organization. You knew when you drafted him, he needed reps. You knew when you drafted him that in order for him to get better, he had to play. And when you bring Daniel Jones in, you say, you know what? We're not going to allow him to get those reps to be good here. It's time to trade him and move on.
So a couple things. That problem, one of the problems he's had getting reps is he hasn't been healthy enough to be on the field. They knew that about him when they drafted him too, though, right? Because that was an issue in college. So that's been a big problem that